Welcome, dear nightmares. It's Narratrix. Somewhere out there, there's someone who looks exactly like you. But they're not you, are they? Tonight you'll hear 10 chilling doppelganger encounters. But beware. Trusting what you see might cost you everything. It started on an ordinary evening, after a really bad day. I was exhausted, mentally, physically, and all I wanted was to grab some fast food, crash on the couch, and forget the world existed. But I needed to wash up first. The bathroom at the gas station wasn't much, but it would do. When I pushed open the door, the mirror was already fogged. Strange, because there was no shower in there. No reason for that kind of steam. And someone was inside, standing at the sink, washing their hands. It was me. Same jacket, same haircut, same slight slouch. But something was wrong. She didn't glance up when I entered. Didn't move. Just kept washing. I took a step closer, my shoes squeaking faintly on the linoleum. And in the mirror, she lifted her head. She was smiling. I wasn't. I froze. I couldn't even breathe. I backed away, not turning my back, and slammed the door shut. When I forced myself to peek back inside, the room was empty. The mirror was clear. It was just me, alone. I told myself it was stress, sleep deprivation, anything logical. But sometimes, when I pass the mirror now, I swear, I see her still watching. I've always been a creature of habit. Every morning I take the same route to work. Same bus, same café for coffee, same crosswalk at 8:12 sharp. I know the faces I pass by. The woman with the red scarf, the jogger in neon shorts, the elderly man walking his tiny dog. It's predictable, comforting, until one morning it wasn't. I was waiting at the crosswalk, coffee in hand, earbuds in, when I felt someone step up beside me. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed they were dressed exactly like me. Same blue jacket, same black jeans, even the same scuffed sneakers. I turned my head slightly, curious, and when I looked, it was me. Same face, same little scar on the eyebrow, same bag slung over the same shoulder. And here's the part that makes my stomach turn. They were smirking, like they knew something I didn't. The light turned green. I stayed frozen. My double stepped off the curb, confidently, smoothly blending into the crowd. I just stood there, heart pounding my chest, wondering if I was still asleep, if this was a dream. But when I finally crossed, weaving through strangers, they were gone. Later that day, at work, I kept glancing up, expecting to see that smirking face in the reflection of a window, or standing just beyond the crowd. I didn't sleep that night or the next. It's been 2 weeks, and now, every time I reach the crosswalk at 8:12 a.m., I can't help but look around, heart thudding, because one day, I'm scared they'll be waiting for me. My mother always had this strange rule when I was growing up. She said, never answer the door after midnight. It wasn't framed like a safety rule, more like a superstition. And being a kid, of course, I thought it was silly. Still, it stuck in my head. Never open the door after midnight. Years later, when I was about 17, Mum had to leave town unexpectedly for a family emergency. I stayed home alone. The night she left, I couldn't sleep. I stayed up late, watching reruns on mute and scrolling endlessly and mindlessly. It was sometime after midnight when I heard the knock. I thought maybe it was a neighbour, or maybe Mum came home early. But something about it just felt wrong. I stayed frozen on the couch, heart hammering. The knock came again, louder, more insistent. I crept up to the door. I didn't say anything. I just looked through the peephole. Standing there was my mother. She looked just like she always did. Same raincoat, same brown eyes, same tired but loving smile. But I remember, she was hours away in another state. I pressed my forehead to the door, listened. No car in the driveway, no footsteps, nothing except her smiling face. She knocked again, this time harder, and then she said something. Honey, it's cold. Let me in. I backed away from the door. Every instinct I had screamed, don't open it. I scrambled to my bedroom, locked the door, shoved my dresser against it. I called my mum's cell phone with shaking hands. She picked up on the second ring. Her voice was scratchy, tired. She said she was still at the hospital 200 miles away. She hadn't been anywhere near our house. The knocking stopped sometime around dawn. I never opened the door. I never found out what was really out there. But ever since that night, sometimes I catch glimpses in the mirror of someone standing behind me, waiting. I've always been the quiet one in the family, the type who prefers the corner of the room, a glass of wine, just observing the chaos of everyone else's chatter. So, when my older sister announced she was hosting a family dinner, I wasn't thrilled, but I showed up. The house was glowing warm, fairy lights strung up, candles lit. She hugged me at the door, and I followed her inside. We gathered at the table, my parents, 2 cousins, their partners, and me. There was laughter, clinking of forks, the occasional outburst of shared memories. I remember excusing myself to use the bathroom halfway through. I climbed the creaky stairs, located the little guest bathroom, and paused at the mirror, washing my hands slowly. And that's when I heard it. My name, from downstairs. Laughter, followed by, "I'm so glad you can make it tonight." But I was here, upstairs. I felt something cold ripple down my spine. I crept to the top of the stairs and peered down. There, at the table, seated where I had just been, was me. Same shirt, same hairstyle, same laugh. I watched myself sip from a glass of wine, lean in as my sister told some story. No one, not one person, noticed anything off. I stayed frozen there, hand gripping the banister. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it was echoing in my ears. Who or what was sitting in my place? I backed quietly down the hall, slipped into a guest room, and closed the door. I needed to think, needed to figure this out. I pulled out my phone and texted my sister. "Hey, can you come upstairs for a second?" A moment later, I heard her phone buzz. I heard her laugh and say, "Excuse me." But the footsteps coming up the stairs weren't hers. They were mine. I watched the shadow under the door. I didn't know if I should run, scream, or stay silent. But the shadow just stood there, waiting. Minutes passed, maybe hours. I was too scared to move. Finally, I heard the voices downstairs shift. The clatter of plates, chairs scraping. My family was finishing dinner. I cracked the door open, heart hammering in my chest. The shadow was gone. I crept back to the stairs and peeked down. There, near the front door, was me again, hugging my sister, waving goodbye, laughing. I watched myself walk out into the night, and when the door closed, everyone turned, smiling, looking right at me. "Did you forget something?" my sister asked. That was 3 years ago. I don't know which one of us left that night, but I've never been the same. It was about 6:30 p.m. on a Thursday. Early winter, already dark. I was waiting at my usual bus stop downtown. You know, the kind with the crooked bench and the flickering overhead light. I had my headphones in, half listening to music, half watching the street. That's when I saw her. She looked weirdly familiar. Same purple hoodie I wore, same messy bun, even the same battered black Converse. I figured maybe it was someone copying my look. It's not exactly unique. Still, something about her made my skin crawl. She wasn't moving, not even shifting her weight. She just stood there, facing the empty street. I tried to ignore it, looked at my phone, checked the bus app. No buses for 15 minutes. I glanced up again, and she was closer. didn't see her move. Now my heart was pounding. I yanked out my earbuds. Stupid, I know, but I needed to hear if something wasn't right. She was standing exactly like me, left hand gripping the strap of her backpack, right foot tapping anxiously, exactly like me. I took a few steps backward toward the road, and that's when she finally turned around. It was me, but not just me. Perfect me. Like how I'd look if I wasn't real. I didn't wait. I bolted across the road, narrowly missing a car. When I did look back, nobody there. No sound, like nothing ever happened. I never saw her again. But I did something after that night. I threw away that purple hoodie. Sometimes, late at night, when a bus rushes past the end of my street, I think I see her reflection, sitting in the back seat. I never used to believe in lost time. You know, the stories people tell about waking up somewhere unfamiliar or realizing an entire hour has vanished from their memory. But then, one winter night, I learned how terrifying it really is. It was a Friday evening. I was walking home from a friend's apartment, taking the shortcut through the city park. The air was cold, biting at my cheeks, and the trees stood bare and skeletal under the streetlights. I checked the time on my phone, 10:42 p.m. If I hurried, I'd be home by 11. About halfway through the park, I felt strange. You know, that sensation when you're being watched. The hairs on the back of your neck stand up, your skin prickles, and suddenly you're hyper-aware of every footstep you take. I turned, scanning the empty path. Nothing. No one. But when I looked ahead again, there I was, standing at the far end of the path. My double. Same coat, same scarf, same wide-eyed expression. They raised their hand as if to wave, and I felt something, I swear, something deep in my gut telling me, don't wave back. I froze. My double tilted its head just slightly as if studying me, and then, without a word, it turned and walked into the trees, disappearing into the dark. I stumbled forward, heart pounding, desperate to get home. But here's where things get worse. When I finally reached my front door, I fumbled for my keys, shivering. I pulled out my phone to check the time. 12:09 a.m. More than an hour had passed. The walk should have been 15, maybe 20 minutes. I have no memory of where that missing time went. I checked my clothes. Dry, no mud, no scratches. I checked my call log. Nothing. And yet, the clock didn't lie. For weeks after, I had nightmares of standing at the edge of the trees, watching myself walk away, of glancing into a mirror and seeing not me, but the other me smirking back. I've read about doppelgängers since, the folklore, the old warnings. They say if you see your double, you should never engage, never follow, never let it come close, because if you do, you might not come back. And sometimes, late at night, when I walk past a window, I wonder, did I? I used to love writing in cafes. You know the kind. Tiny tables, the clink of ceramic cups, free Wi-Fi. There was one place downtown, about a 20-minute walk from my apartment, where I always wrote on Sunday mornings. It became a ritual. Same booth in the back, same order, black coffee, scrambled eggs. Same battered old laptop that I swear only stayed alive through pure stubbornness. One Sunday, it all changed. I remember pushing open the glass door, the little bell above it chiming. I remember waving at the waitress who knew my name by then. And I remember seeing someone sitting at my booth. At first, I was a little annoyed. Creatures of habit don't like change, you know. But then I froze. Because the person sitting in my booth was me. I don't mean they looked like me. I mean, they were me. Same battered laptop open, same black hoodie, frayed at the cuffs, same messy hair tied in a quick, careless knot. Even the chipped mug sitting beside them, my mug, was the same. They were typing furiously, the way I did, when the ideas hit fast and hard. Only, I hadn't even opened my laptop yet. I stood there, frozen in the doorway, probably looking like an idiot. Nobody else seemed to notice. The waitress smiled and went back to wiping down a counter. The old man by the window kept sipping his coffee. The two girls near the front giggled over their phones. Only I saw the double. I thought about turning around and leaving, pretending I never saw it, but something made me stay. Maybe it was pride, maybe curiosity. I forced my legs to move and sat at a table 2 booths down. I opened my laptop, hands shaking, and pretended to work, but I kept stealing glances at myself. It never looked up. It just kept typing fast and fluid, pausing only to sip from the chipped mug. Then, something strange happened. I noticed her clothes were changing. Not dramatically, subtle at first. The cuffs of the hoodie, which had been frayed like mine, now looked neat. The chipped mug slowly turned pristine as if newly bought. The hair, mine always a little messy, became combed tidy. It was like she was cleaned up version of me. The me I thought about sometimes. The version of myself I always meant to become but never did. It made my stomach twist, because deep down I realized this thing wasn't just mimicking me, it was replacing me. I shut my laptop hard. The crack echoed through the cafe. Finally, the double looked up. We locked eyes. It smiled. Not a cruel smile, not evil, just confident. I stood up, my chair screeching loudly against the tile floor, but when I turned to leave, she was already standing too. Mirror movements, same steps, same speed. I reached the door first, heart hammering, and when I dared look over my shoulder, the booth was empty. The chipped mug was gone. The laptop was gone. The double was gone. I staggered out onto the sidewalk, gasping for air like I'd just surfaced from deep water. That was 2 years ago. I never went back to that cafe. But sometimes, when I'm walking downtown, past reflections in the shop windows of bus shelters, I see a version of me, neater, sharper, a little more successful looking. And I wonder if, in some world, she stayed, and I'm the one who left. When you grow up in an old apartment building, you learn all its creaks and quirks. The worn steps on the stairwell, the flicker of the hall light, the thinness of the walls when the neighbours are fighting. I'd lived in my building for almost 8 years. Thought I knew it inside out. I was wrong. It started on a rainy night when I came home late from work. The elevator was broken again, so I trudged up the 6 flights to my floor. As I rounded the 3rd floor landing, I saw someone standing perfectly still at the top of the stairs. It was me. Same jacket, same messenger bag slung over one shoulder. They just stood there, hands in their pockets, head tilted slightly, watching me. I froze. My first thought was maybe it was a mirror, some strange trick of light. But no, mirrors don't breathe. I could see the slow rise and fall of their chest. And then they smiled. I slowly backed down a step, heart racing so loud I could barely hear anything else. The figure, my double, raised its hand as if to wave, but then it took a step down toward me. I ran, bolted down the stairs 2 at a time, gasping, nearly slipping on the wet concrete. I didn't stop until I was out on the street, bent over, shaking. When I finally dared to glance up at the stairwell window, nothing. The next day, I convinced myself it was exhaustion, stress, maybe a trick of the light. But then, it happened again. 2 days later on the 5th floor landing, a glimpse, just a glimpse, of someone turning the corner ahead of me, wearing my clothes, with my same gait. I tried to chase them down, but when I got to the top, there was no one there. Since then, it's been escalating. I'll catch sight of my double outside the building, waiting at the bus stop when I know I'm inside. I'll spot them through the reflection in a window, watching me. I've stopped using the stairwell. I take the elevator when I can, avoid looking up at the landings. But I know they're still there, waiting. And I can't shake the feeling that one day I'm going to turn the corner and they won't let me pass. I've never liked mirrors, not because of any childhood superstition or ghost story. I just don't trust them. It sounds ridiculous, I know, but I've always had this feeling, even as a kid, that the thing looking back at me isn't fully me. It started small. I'd glance in the mirror when brushing my teeth, and for a split second I'd swear my reflection blinked slightly slower than me, or that the head tilt was just a hair off. But you brush it off, right? You tell yourself it's lighting, sleep deprivation, anxiety. Until one night, I couldn't explain it away. I was staying late at the office. Everyone else had gone home, and only the emergency lights cast that pale glow down the hallway. I went into the bathroom to splash cold water on my face. The mirror above the sink was slightly fogged, but I saw myself, rumpled shirt, tired eyes, phone tucked under one arm. I washed my face, patted it dry, and as I looked up, my reflection was still bent down. For a heartbeat, I froze. Then slowly, in the glass, I saw me lift its head, but too slowly, like it was deliberately mimicking me, just half a second behind. And then it smiled. I wasn't smiling. I took a shaky step back. My heart was racing so hard I thought I might faint. The reflection tilted its head slightly, eyes locked on mine, lips still curved in that eerie grin. And then it raised its hand and waved. I didn't move. I bolted, ran out of the bathroom, down the hallway, grabbed my coat and didn't look back. When I got home, I covered every mirror in the house, bedroom, bathroom, hallway, sheets, towels, blankets, anything to block them. But here's the part that still haunts me. Sometimes, late at night, when the house is still, I hear faint tapping sounds from behind the covered mirrors, like something is waiting. I don't look anymore. I won't. Because one day I know the reflection won't wait. It'll come out. I used to live in a third-floor apartment. Nothing fancy, cheap rent, peeling paint, windows that rattled when it stormed. It wasn't much, but it was mine. There was this old oak tree outside my bedroom window. Its branches nearly touched the glass in winter when the wind blew just right. I liked falling asleep listening to it. It made the place feel alive, connected to something older. Until the night I woke up and saw him. I'm not a light sleeper. Normally, nothing short of a marching band would wake me. But that night, I snapped awake, heart racing, and I didn't know why. At first, I just lay there, breathing hard, staring into the night. Then, my eyes adjusted. There was someone standing outside my window. Third floor, no balcony, no fire escape. Just standing there, looking in. I thought, maybe it's a trick of the light, a shadow, a branch. I closed my eyes, counted to 5, opened them again. Still there, closer now, pressed against the glass. I could just make out the features, the nose, the chin, the messy hair. He looked familiar, exactly like me. I scrambled backwards, slamming into my nightstand, knocking over a glass of water. The figure didn't flinch, just stared. I wanted to believe I was dreaming. Sleep paralysis, hallucination, anything but what it really was. I did the only thing I could think of. I turned on the light, flooded the room in harsh yellow, and when I looked back, she was still there. No reaction, no squinting, no flinching. As if he belonged to a different world, one where my light couldn't touch him. Then he smiled. I ran. I didn't even grab my phone. I bolted through the apartment, down the stairs, into the freezing night. I didn't stop until I reached the diner a few blocks away. Shaking, sweating, half convinced I'd finally lost my mind. I called a friend. He drove over. We went back together. My bedroom window was shut tight. No sign of forced entry. No footprints. Nothing. Just the branch of the oak tree tapping lightly against the glass. I moved out a month later. New job, new city, new apartment. But some nights, when I'm standing in my kitchen or brushing my teeth, I catch a glimpse of the window. And sometimes I see him standing on the fire escape, smiling, waiting for me to fall asleep. That's it for tonight, my nightmares. Remember, not everything you see is real, and sometimes it's you who cannot be trusted. One of these tales was false. Comment your guess. First correct answer wins a feature in the next video. It's your choice. Be seen or stay unseen.
That my mind fills up into a creature, and it haunts me somewhere much deeper.